Hi everyone and welcome to the French Watch Collector. Today on the bench we have one of my favorite brands, Zenith. I love this brand, and you see this watch as well, a Zenith El Primero, which is a chronograph from Zenith. And we see this watch as a couple of issues. And what we're going to do, we're going to fully service, look at this caliber, this beautiful Zenith El Primero. Automatic chronograph, we talk about as well the history on this chronograph. But you can see the watch first. Yeah, we see the time is changing. And the date as well is should. Here we go. Now we have a quick side date. Change on the date there. And oh, it looks like it's something wrong with the chronograph. You see, when I try to start a chronograph, it doesn't really move. That's not good. Gonna try it again, but yeah, something is stuck. Yeah, something is stuck, you see, inside the chronograph there. It just started to go and it stopped. Now, when I do the reset is working. But yeah, something is stopping the mechanism inside the chronograph. So we're going to check. And you see on the time grapher as well, look at the rate. It's losing like 361 seconds a day. The amplitude is quite good, but the rate is very, very bad. So obviously, doing a full service, we see what we can get at the end. But yes, there is a couple of issues on this watch. It's a beautiful watch, like a modern one with this black die. So what we're going to do, we're going to remove, you see first the bracelet. Just using, you see there, my Orotech tool. Which you can see as well in the description some of the tools that I'm using in the video. And what we're going to do, we're going to remove the case back. You can see that a see-through case back with the glass in the center. And actually this one is kept in position with 4 screws. So we're going to unscrew, you see, like very dirty as well. We're going to do as well, we're going to do a full cleaning on the case in an ultrasonic machine. And you see I'm just removing these 4 screws there. And we should get access to the mechanism by removing the case back. You see, I'm just using the sharp screwdriver there just to make sure I just remove the case back. Here we go. And look at this beautiful caliber inside. Removing, we can see that we have a O-ring on the case back here. Just checking there if the automatic system is working. We see the wheels are moving from the automatic winding system. There is not too much play as well. You see like there is a roll bearing in the center here where I'm removing like around the screws there. There is not too much play, so that's good. We don't need to change, you see this bearing inside. And we're going to remove this beautiful oscillating weight there from the automatic system. And now we're going to start disassembling like the caliber, but for that we're going to remove this wheel there, which is just connected through the weight that we just removed. And what we're going to do now, we're just going to remove all the screws, and we're just going to remove like the caliber, which is kept inside the case. And you can see this one is done in two layers. We have kind of a big ring keeping the caliber inside the center of this case. You can see there, we start to see this ring which is moving. Just removing, you see there, the winding stem with the crown. And we should be able to remove the caliber inside the case very slowly. There we go, perfect. You see, I'm just using a tiny drop of oil in the center there of the sub-second on the chronograph dial, because yeah, some of the hands there are very tight. So a bit of oil will help the hand to be removed later on. And we keep the hands, you see, inside this little box. Just do the same thing there with the second hand. And we have, this is a minute hand from the chronograph. That's the one I just put a drop of oil just to make sure it slide a bit. It's a bit easier. And now we have the hand from the hour from the chronograph. And that's it. We're going to put all these hands in the box just to keep them safe and nice inside this box. Just going to remove the dial fit screw here, you see, from this beautiful dial, black, very deep dark. And just removing the other screw here. And you see this dark dial, which is beautiful. Just removing that. And again, we're just going to keep it safe inside this box. And keep in the center. There we go. And now we have this, again, this beautiful El Primero Caliber to be fully disassembled, just removing the cannon pinion here. And you see it's quite different, like on a date ring that's around here, with kept in position with these 4 blue screws. You need to be very, very careful, you see, with these screws, because you don't want to scratch this date disc. And again, inside we have other screws keeping in position this ring, which is sliding around on the caliber. And again, we have these small blue screws, which are beautiful, which keep this part, which is like supporting the date disc. And now basically we are left on a basic caliber, on a El Primero Caliber. And I'm just checking, you see, and I see, it looks like the chronograph is running now. So I'm not sure if something was kept in position with maybe with the hands from the chronograph, because it was stopping very quickly. But obviously we need to disassemble everything. And we'll see at the end if the chronograph is working perfectly or not. Just removing, you see the balance wheel here. Very fragile. Now I'm on the calendar side, the dial side. I'm just removing, you see, the quick set date system. And I'm going to disassemble here the dial side first, where we have 2 things basically on this side. You have the chronograph, a part of the chronograph mechanism with the chronograph hour wheel here. You see, this is a chronograph hour wheel, which is directly connected to we remove the center hand on the sub dial here from the hour of the chronograph. And after, obviously, as well on this side, you have all the other parts from the calendar mechanism that need to be removed as well. So we're going to remove, and what I do every time as well on this chronograph, you will see a lot of different screws, and on the chronograph, you will have a lot of screws with shoulders inside. And basically, a lot of screws are not exactly the same. So just to make sure I don't mix the screws between one and each other, I will just place back the screws on the main plate of the mechanism. So like that, when I reassemble the watch, I just have to remove the screw first, put the parts, and put back the screws. So like that, I'm sure I don't mix up the screws between each other. Okay, so this is the calendar mechanism here that I finished to remove. Perfect. And now we are back on the balance side, and we can see we're gonna disassemble the chronograph first, complication, which is always on top of the caliber here on the El Primero. And you see we have another part of the chronograph which is on the dial side that we just removed just before this step. We can see here Just removing the main plate, the bridge, the chronograph bridge. Just removing the chronograph wheel here, the center wheel. This is a minute wheel from the chronograph. And now we're going to remove as well. In a chronograph, you will have a lot of springs and a lot of parts which need to move and actuate at the same time. So that's what the difficulty of a chronograph. And you see this one is a column wheel chronograph. You will have a cam, and a column wheel chronograph is two kind of chronograph. And this one is, we will remove the column wheel a bit later on. It's a column wheel operated chronograph. Just removing the clutch, which engage and disengage the chronograph when you start or stop the chronograph. And you will see a lot of spring as well that go against the parts. And we have this wheel which is friction mounted on the pivot point from a wheel in the train of wheel. Just remove a pressure tool there just to remove the wheel. And now you see I carry on disassembling, and you see these shoulders on the screws that I was talking about. Just to make sure we don't mix up the screws between each other. Perfect. And so basically what we do when we do a service, we're going to fully disassemble each single parts. We're going to clean them, and we're going to reassemble them and check as well if there is no parts which are broken or anything. And we're going to reassemble them to make sure the watch is running perfectly again. Re-oil all the points that need to be oiled and greased. So yeah, that's the point of a service, like on a watch, on a mechanical watch. And especially you see on this, and this is the column wheel that I was talking about. This is basically the brain of the chronograph, which is make sure when you rotate, you will have all the parts moving between each other just to make sure to start, stop, and reset the chronograph. Here I just move on the dial side, and you can see I'm disassembling the keyless work. We have the minute wheel there. And basically this part is when you pull on the crown, you will have 3 positions on this watch. You will have the first position, which is to wind the watch. Being an automatic, you can as well wind it manually. You will have second position to change the time. And the third position will be to quick set date, to change the date very quickly. Not because you need to pass after midnight, you can change it very quickly. So that's the 3 positions that you have on the crown. And basically the keyless work is what the job is doing when you pull the crown to give them the information when you turn the crown to the correct part of the mechanism. Okay, so now we move back to the balance side. I'm just removing, you see the pallet fork here. Now we just remove the bridge, and this is the pallet fork. And basically what we are left here is a normal watch, let's say. It's just like we remove all the complications, so it's just a watch with the parts that will be used to keep a time. No chronograph anymore, no date anymore, everything's already removed. But all these parts, the balance, the pallet fork, the train of wheel that we're going to remove, the barrel assembly, all of that is what you will find in a normal watch, a 2-hand or a 3-hands watch without any complication. So basically that's what we are disassembling right now. Okay, so I'm just removing this big bridge on top there. Underneath, you will have a part of the train of wheel. You will have as well the barrel assembly. And obviously a couple of parts underneath with the ratchet wheel, the crown wheel. So just removing each part, checking as well that nothing is damaged, nothing is bent, nothing is too dirty before we put it in a cleaning machine. Now we have the center wheel here. And basically that's it. We are there is just a clutch here that need to be removed, the clutch wheel here, but everything is disassembled. We can see on this bridge, we're gonna disassemble few screws because we have the crown wheel underneath, and that's the crown wheel I just disassembled. We're gonna open the barrel assembly. You can see here, just using a knife because we need to break it from the center, the middle, if you want, of the barrel assembly here. Just gonna rub, you see, with a piece of wood, like all the black grease. Being an automatic watch, we have a special grease as well for the barrel inside there. Just pre-clean if you want before we put it in a cleaning machine. Just removing the barrel arbor in the center here. There we go. And now I'm just taking out the spring, the main spring, which is where you have all the power when you wind the watch, which is basically keeping in this spring there. And I'm just going to clean all the jewels, which is this like pink ruby, which is synthetic ruby, but it's not a real ruby. But just going to pre-clean them if you want to detach the dried up oil or grease on these jewels. You see you have the jewel as well there, which has from the balance assembly that I removed and will be cleaned as well separately inside the cleaning machine. And now I just place back the balance assembly here. Same thing, we're going to take the jewel from this side. Just removing, you see, very slowly the spring there on top. And you can see there the jewel, which is in two positions with a jewel on top and a chaton there. Just taking with my tweezers. Perfect. And now all the parts going to go inside these baskets with different size. And it's just to make sure we keep them inside this basket. And all these baskets will go inside the cleaning machine a bit later on. And we're going to fully clean all these parts that we just disassembled. And basically what we're going to do now, we're going to reassemble this beautiful caliber. And you see that's a lot of parts, obviously being a chronograph and with a date and being automatic as well. That's a lot of part for a caliber. It's not a very simple caliber. Okay, so now we're going to clean the parts. First, we're going to put them in a solution just to clean. We do 2 steps of rinsing and the last step will be a drying. I would like to tell you that I have my Patreon page. So you can find a link down below in the description of this video. You can follow and go on my Patreon. And if you want to be a subscriber and help me on my channel, you can be part of this group with Olaf, Marcus, Philip, Roger, Matt, David, Shabil, Jan, Cornet, Alan, David, Tony, Tim, and Gregory. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting me. And again, if you want to go and go on my Patreon, you can find a link down below and you will be able to subscribe and to support the channel. You can as well see the video free of commercial on Patreon. So thanks in advance if you help me and support me on my Patreon. Okay, so now the parts are clean, rinsed, and now they are fully dried up. So we can start the reassembly of this beautiful caliber. First, what we're going to do epilam treatment. So we're going to put few parts inside epilam. And epilam, again, it will help to retain the oil on a surface. It's a kind of a surface treatment that we do with the epilam. You see now I'm drying them from with all the epilam on it. I'm later on going to remove the epilam from the pivot point you see there on the pallet fork and the ratchet wheel. The escape wheel, sorry. Just removing. And now I will just put a drop of oil right in the center of the jewel here, and you see the epilam will keep the oil nice and center. It will not spread on the jewel. And you see here, I'm just putting the chaton back on top, and the drop of oil is captured in between the two parts there. We do the same thing on the other side, because obviously we have this type of jewel on the balance wheel, top and bottom. You see how small it is, very, very small. And we're going to place back, you see, the jewel with the drop of oil in the center there. And basically the oil will lubricate the pivot point of the balance staff. Yeah, I'm just closing. It's not easy actually. These springs are not the easiest spring to open and close. But yeah, I'm just closing them right now. Now I do it on the other side. And closing one side, and we're just going to close the other side. Here we go. Perfect. And now I'm just going to check with just blowing a bit of air to see if the hairspring is perfectly concentric and fully flat, just to make sure there is no damage to the hairspring there. And it looks pretty good actually on this one. So that's a very good news. I'm just going to reassemble now as well the barrel arbor. You can see I'm just putting, you remember this black grease that was on the barrel arbor? It's actually this grease that you put on the wall here of the barrel arbor. Being an automatic watch, it means that the mainspring will, when it's fully wound up, it will slide around because it never stops winding on an automatic watch. So that's why you put this grease on the wall there, just to make sure it slides. Just put a brand new mainspring on the watch. Putting the barrel arbor here. There we go. And now we're gonna do, we're just gonna close up the barrel arbor, putting the lid on top, the lid on top of it. And now it's fully close up. Perfect. Just gonna oil, you see the pivot point there, where you have the barrel arbor on both sides, obviously. I'm just gonna reassemble, you remember, this is the bridge from the train of wheel and the barrel arbor. Underneath you have the ratchet wheel and the crown wheel. It's more the crown wheel actually, this one. So we're going to reassemble the crown wheel. And you see, I'm just going to put, you see all the oil on the pivot, on the all different points which are contact to contact between metals. Just to make sure it slides and as well that the parts don't wear to each other. Just gonna put, you see, the 3 very tiny screws that need to be screwed from the other side. We have a click here as well that need to be lubricated. There, I'm gonna put the setting lever pusher. And we're going to start to reassemble the different parts. First, the center wheel, the barrel arbor that we just put back together with the new mainspring inside, the ratchet wheel that go on top. Need to be aligned, you see, with this square hole. We have the wheels there for the automatic winding mechanism. And we're going to put the parts from the train of wheel one by one. And you see we're aligning everything on the jewel there and on the top parts. just aligning the pivot point. And here we go. You see now I just need to realign again the pivot point on this wheel. And I think we have most of the wheel will be aligned. And basically after that, we can put the bridge on top of it. And we really need to align all the parts again with the top jewel there you see on this bridge. Okay, so you see like this one, like I said at the beginning, this is a Zenith El Primero. And actually, this is a very, very old chronograph, automatic chronograph, because it has the specification on this one. And actually in 1969, and 1960 was a big race between like the watch manufacturer, Zenith. It was other, like for example, Breitling, Seiko. They were battling between each other to have the first automatic chronograph. And there is different version who had the first done, the first one that came out to the market, the first one that was sold to the market. But actually the Zenith El Primero was one of the first one, if it's not the first one, between each other. And it was against the Seiko 6139 and the caliber 11, for example, from Tagayer or Breitling. But yeah, the Zenith El Primero, and is still today actually more or less the same caliber that came out in 1960s. It was 70s. It was some small difference, but not a lot compared to the other caliber. It was a very robust chronograph, automatic chronograph, and actually it's the chronographs that was used, or the base of the chronographs that were used for Rolex during a long time for the Daytona, because that was the first automatic chronograph caliber that they used on a Daytona. They used a Zenith for a long time with some small modification. For example, the date is not on a Daytona. The frequency as well, the beating, the beating of the frequency of the beating on a caliber as well is reduced, if you want, on a Daytona. But it's more or less, basically, it was a Zenith El Primero on Daytona. So it's a very, very famous, a very reliable caliber, which is still using today. Is like I said, on this watch is not very old, but it's more or less the same Zenith El Primero that was produced in the 70s. And this is again a great caliber, one of my favorite caliber from a chronograph, for a chronograph point. And I love chronograph. And something I like to work on is this beautiful El Primero caliber. And again, they used it as well on other brands, like for example, vintage watches. You have Movado that used a lot of El Primero. You will find it obviously on Zenith. And again, like I said, as well on Rolex with the Daytona. For many, many years, they use the Zenith El Primero on the Daytona. So yeah, this is a wonderful chronograph caliber, which is still used today. Something from, again, that's been running for 50 years or more today, more than 50 years. So that's quite something to have such an old caliber, which is still running and still good today, obviously with some improvement, but it's more or less 95% exactly the same caliber than it came out in the 70s. So yeah, this is again, if any watch collector, any watch lover, I will advise you to have a Zenith El Primero in your collection. It's a beautiful caliber. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, we are reassembling. You see the keyless work here. Again, like we said, that was a part of the caliber that is used just to, when you pull on the crown, to give the information. and transmit the rotation of the crown to the different part in the mechanism to change the time, to wind the watch, and to quick set date for the quick set date. Okay, and so now we have this final bridge there on a keyless work that need to be kept in place with the screw and just checking if everything is working. Perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna put the pallet fork. Again, like we did on a train of wheel, we're gonna realign the jewels on this beautiful pallet fork. Just aligning the jewel as well on the bridge there for the pallet fork bridge. There we go. Now we see the pivot point which is aligned to the jewel. Okay, so when I put the balance, we can see that there was some amplitude that was too low, and it was a tiny bit too much play on the barrel arbor. So what I do, I just tighten the hole there from the barrel arbor. You see there on the bridge. I just tap it, you see there with my tool here, just to reduce the hole. We're gonna slightly to open it, just checking there. You see if the hole is too small, it doesn't go on the barrel arbor from the barrel assembly. And now I'm just gonna, with a smoothing brush, just to open the hole ever so slightly until it fit perfectly and there is no play in the hole here. And I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just checking now if everything is fitting with the bridge. And I see that there was again too much play on the bottom of the on the other side of the hole of the barrel assembly on the other side, so on the main plate. I'm reducing the hole again with the tool here, and I'm just going to open it ever so slightly, just to make sure it fits perfectly and there is no play in between the main plate and the barrel arbor pivot point. And actually, when I did that, the result on a time grapher was much better. The amplitude went up again. And because obviously, if you have too much play, the barrel arbor can come to an angle and it can rub again a part or again a wheel. And this will reduce by a lot the amplitude. So that's what I've done on this watch there. And you can see there, everything is aligned perfectly. And you can see the play. There is not much play on the barrel assembly, so that's perfect. Okay, so that now is done. We're going to focus on the complication. First, the chronograph. We're going to reassemble all the parts. And remember, there is a lot of different parts on the chronograph. With the different, like we said at the beginning, with each screws which are a bit different on the chronograph. So first we're going to remove the screws that we put back when we disassemble the watch place the parts and put back the screw in position, the right one, just to make sure we don't mix the screws between each other. And you see I'm oiling all the pivot points that I need to oil as well. And we see we're going to oil and grease a lot of different parts on the chronograph just to make sure he manage, like it move and it operates very nicely. We have like the minute click there and like spring. Perfect. And what I'm going to do now as well, I'm going to oil, you see the pivot point there from the chronograph wheel. We're going to oil as well the arched cam shape that you have on the chronograph. Going to put here, you see this wheel from the automatic winding. That need to be aligned, you see, on a pivot point, which is underneath actually, quite deep inside the mechanism here. Perfect. Just you see there, we have the hammer. That's the parts that will reset the chronograph wheel. And I will oil, you see the hammer hand there, that's a flat bit here. That will come and hit the art cam. You see that I'm oiling right now. On the chronograph and chronograph wheel and the minute wheel from the chronograph. I'm oiling as well all the contact point there. And I will just play back. You see this bridge where I need to align all the jewels as well. Very so slightly. You see, you need to be very gentle just to make sure all the parts are aligned between each other. And when it is, we just secure it with the screws. There we go. Now it just find the position. And again, like I said, we're gonna secure it with the screws on this beautiful bridge. And we can carry on with the rest of the assembly. The column wheel, you remember, this is a column wheel chronograph, which is a brain of the chronograph. When you push and when you pull on it's more pushing on the chronograph. When you push on the pushers, it will make this chronograph wheel, column wheel, rotate. And all the parts will move between each other at the right place to start, stop, and reset the chronograph. And obviously the column wheel, and it was always been a column wheel on an El Primero. The chrono wheel is a bit more complicated to manufacture the part, but it has a very nice feel when you push on the pushers. So that's why like a lot of nice chronograph calibers are with column wheel and not cam wheel, because even if today like they found like a way to have a very nice feel on a cam wheel chronograph, like for example if you have today on a Omega Moonwatch, it's a cam caliber, but the feeling is very, very good. It was not always the case on a chronograph case, but the column wheel has always a very nice feel, very crisp click, if you want, when you push on a pusher, which is a start, stop, and reset. So yeah, that was the very positive point of a column wheel. but again, it's a more complicated and more expensive way of producing a chronograph. Okay, so we carry on by putting, you see, a lot of parts on the chronograph there, and you see we have this long arm here that come and connect, you see, the pushers, the pusher to the column wheel. Like I said, we're gonna push more the button on the pushers. It's gonna make the column wheel rotate, and that this big arm here, that's a job to make the connection between the two parts. We are putting, you see, the spring here, another spring here on top of it. And you see I'm activating, if you want, the spring here on the parts. And you will see all the point again, like which are metal against metal. We need to lubricate just to make sure it's smooth when we stop, start, and reset the chronograph, and as well that the parts don't wear and break between each other without the grease or the oil. And this is again a spring for the hammer. And you see now we have the hammer there. You see start, stop, and reset, which is working. We're just removing the excess grease. And now we have the chronograph driving wheel here, which will be connected to the clutch, where first I will lubricate, you see, the pivot point of the clutch. And I'm going to put here, you see, the screw that kept in position the clutch. And like on all the parts that we have on a chronograph, we need to put some tension on the parts. And that's done with this spring here on the clutch. There we go. I'm just gonna adjust, you see, the height of this wheel just to make sure it's fully aligned with the clutch wheel. And you see now the start, stop, and reset. Start, stop, and reset. We see all the parts are working together. What we do now on a microscope, we need to adjust, you see, like the wheels on the chronograph need to be engaged 75% between each steel. Steve, you see that now we were more at 50, and now we are engaged a bit more, a bit too much between on the right. You see with the chronograph center wheel. What we're gonna do, we have this blue screw there that we need to adjust to make the engagement between the wheels. And you see now after adjustment, we are pretty close now to 70% on both sides of the engagement. And now we are checking if the minute wheel is jumping. Yes, we have a minute wheel jumping, so that's perfect. I'm just doing a cleaning on with my electro cleaning machine there. And we'll have a brand new case, which is fully clean. And again, here we're gonna reassemble. We have done everything on the balance side. Now we are on a dial side. We're gonna reassemble the rest of the parts, which you remember on this side. You have a part of the chronograph with the hour wheel, the hour part of the chronograph, and as well the date mechanism. So that's what we're going to reassemble on this side. And you see that's the parts for the chronograph So this is the parts that will reset the hammer, that will reset the hour wheel. We have the part here that will come, basically the clutch, if we want, that will engage or disengage the hour wheel from the chronograph. So I need to lubricate all the wheel first, because I will not have access to these points a bit later on when we disassemble. You see underneath this part. Just gonna put again the screw here, which has a shoulder on it, which is a pivot point. The screw is acting as a pivot point. And now you just put some tension with the spring. And now we are on some of the parts from the calendar, and this is the wheel, the hour wheel from the chronograph that I just oiled. And we have this bridge that comes on top, you see, with this spring on top of it that will keep some tension on the hour wheel from the chronograph. Here we go. I will just secure all these parts together with a bridge on top of it. And you see the start, stop, and reset from the chronograph. We see the parts moving on the bottom left there, and the reset with the hammer, resetting the wheel. That's perfect. Okay, we're just gonna put back the cannon pinion. And now we're going to focus on, again, like I said, there is a calendar mechanism from this side. So we're going to put the different parts that I used for the calendar. You can see there is not too many parts left on the bench. We have here the date jumper with the spring, obviously, just to make sure we have a nice jump when we are close to midnight on the date. Okay, I'm just reassemble the rest of the chronograph of the calendar mechanism, and you can see there, you don't know yet, but I'm doing a mistake. I'm just putting this part underneath the wheel here, and I will put this screw on top of it. You have another screw there which is connected, another wheel, sorry, which is connected to the hour wheel a bit later on. You see with this is a screw to keep this wheel in position. And we're going to put the hour wheel now. That will connect, you see, everything to the calendar mechanism. But you see, this wheel actually was the wheel on the bottom, and we have this finger that will make the date jump on the top and not on the bottom that it was at the beginning. So I will just put it again with the screw here. I will just check if on the top you see the finger will jump, and stack. We saw the finger jumping there, so that's really good. We're gonna put like this kind of ring, which we're gonna sit the date disc on top. Just need to align it and put it with this beautiful blued screw there. They are very, very, very small. And we are going to put this other ring, which is inside the caliber, that will slide on bottom of the date disc, where you have this screw there, keeping this ring in position. So yeah, that's quite complicated on this caliber, and this is specifically for this case, which is a bigger case. I think this watch was like maybe 43 or 43, 44, I don't remember, millimeter in diameter. So obviously you see, like, you need to like the caliber is always the same, but after a round you need to put this ring, and this date disc and everything is bigger around the caliber, and to make sure it stayed nice and tender as well inside the case. And now we need to put this tiny screw in just to make sure you don't damage the date disc. And let's check the jump there on the top. Yes, we have the very nice, smooth and quick jump on the date. We have the quick set date here. This is the mechanism for the quick set date. We're gonna put it in position. With the screw, you see we have a very big shoulder on this one. Makes the pivot point of these parts. And let's check as well the quick set date, which is a third position. Yeah, perfect. We have the quick set date, which is working there. Okay. What we're gonna put back the dial, this beautiful dial. I did not do anything on the dial because it was in very good condition. It's quite new as well. I mean, it's not a very old dial. Very deep black dial. You see a shiny one in position. Just gonna secure it with the dial fit screw in position as well. I'm just gonna make the date jump. Just changing the hour. Yeah, we have the jump there. Just gonna put the hour hand, align it very quickly. See, I'm just pressing it ever so slightly just to make sure it stays in position without pressing too much on it. We just realign it to midnight. There we go. And we're gonna go up. You see the date just jumped there. So I'm just gonna realign it to midnight. And I will press it in position with my Eurotech tool there. Perfect. Just going to do the same thing with the minute wheel here. The minute hand, not the minute wheel. Just align it again to the hour hand and midnight. Perfect. And we're gonna check. Yeah, it just jump like 4 minutes before midnight, so that's perfect. I like to have it around plus or minus 5 minutes. This is a sub-second hand for the time and not the chronograph. So this is always running. Just press it in position. This is a hour hand from the chronograph. So I'm gonna, if I can very so slightly put it in position. There we go. Gonna align it. And next, we're gonna put the minute hand from the chronograph. Again, we're gonna align to 0 and press it in position there. And last but not least, we're gonna put the second hand from the chronograph, which is right in the center of the chronograph. And this one, yeah, is tricky to align as well. This is a beautiful second hand with the red tip at the end. Just gonna align it to 0, which is the 12th position on the chronograph. And you see there with my Eurotech tool, I'm just realigning and pressing the second hand of this chronograph in position. I'm just gonna vacuum, you see, the inside of the case just to make sure I remove any dust on the case or on a crystal there. And I'm gonna blow as well any dust that can be on the die side just to make sure it's as perfect as possible. Yeah, just gonna put back this beautiful case, which was clean as well. I will put back the crown and winding stem here. And now we have all the screws, you see, and parts to keep all the ring in position and keep everything safe inside the case. So we have the first level here, you see, on this ring around, and now we have the ring on the case. And this is a second one here. And we're gonna check the stop, start, and reset of the chronograph. Just there, just to make sure everything works nicely. Now reset. Yeah, perfect. We're gonna place back, you remember, it was this wheel here from the automatic system that is kept in position. You see we have this kind of tongue here that need to be inside the chronograph, the wheel, sorry, and need to be screwed in position. Yeah, and you see it doesn't come out anymore. Gonna lubricate, you see the pivot point here from the chronograph wheel and the clutch. And we're gonna put back the oscillating weight from the winding system. We have obviously the beautiful star, the Zenith star in a center, le locle, which is a place where you have the production facilities from Zenith. And again, just checking everything is working in one way, in the other way, in both directions. Yeah, that's perfect. Just gonna oil the bearing here. Put a brand new gasket, you see, which is lubricated there with Molykote on a case back. Just to make sure the watch will be, obviously it's not a diving watch, but yeah, you need to be against humidity and water when you are, for example, in a sink, under a sink or something like that. So you want to have the proper sealing on these beautiful watches. And again, we're going to close the case back with the screws, like we found it when we had it. Obviously, it was much more dirty when we had it, but now it's a lot more shiny. Perfect. And now we close the second and the last, the fourth screws. Just place back the bracelet here. Just put the original bracelet from the owner. And look at this beauty, yeah. Beautiful Zenith El Primero. And let's check the chronograph. Now is working. Yes, it doesn't stop. And we will see the result a bit later. But first, I would like to tell you that I have my own website. You can find the link down below in the description of the video. I will put a link on the top right corner as well. I'm selling some of the watch that I restored on this channel. And as well, you can go on my website where you can see the service for my watches. Like, for example, this watch is one of my watchers that sent me this beautiful Zenith El Primero to be serviced. So yeah, if you want to send me your watch, I would be very happy to work on it. And you can see there on the chronograph, it's running obviously much faster than what it should be, but obviously this is going much faster on my video. But yeah, you can see the minute jumping, the second, everything, the hour. And let's check if everything is reset. Yeah, perfect. Everything is reset to 0. Very happy with that. And we can see the watch is fully working. If you did not subscribe to the channel, please click on the subscribe button. I will be very happy to see you on my next video. And we see you for a new watch. So, bye-bye.